out of the box. He comes with someone who is expected to inflict a new foreign policy towards the whole world, and in particular the Arab region and the Middle East. He comes also with an agenda that is having hatred or having disrespect to terrorism, and he's against the Brotherhood organization and all the foundation militants who formed terrorist elements worldwide. Of course, if we talk in detail, it's going to take a long time, but he comes with a totally new policy on top of all what signifies or what distinguishes his administration is his stance against the terrorist organizations, and in particular the Brotherhood organization. Of course, he is now considering forming the cabinet, and there are talks about the people that he is going to make choices on, and more other details. And we're very delighted to have with us Dr. Ibrahim Al-Ghazawi, Professor of International Relations, and he's going to shed light on this particular stage in the life of the United States as having Donald Trump as the 45th president. Good morning, Dr. Ghazawi.
Good morning.
Good morning, Dr. Ghazawi. And of course, as Dina just said, we're expecting a different U.S. policy towards the Middle East and maybe Egypt also. How do you expect U.S. foreign policy to be towards the Arab region and Egypt in specific?
Well, let me start with the fact about United States of America stable policies as a superpower and a democracy, a stable democracy. The margin for the movement of the president is not so big indeed. As we used to say, it's an institutional state or country. It means simply that the variables in the foreign policy of United States is not that big or not that huge. Of course, we expect to have some changes, but I don't want to follow exactly the implications that were given to us during the electoral campaign of Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton, indeed, at that time. We all know that during this electoral phase, things usually gets very hot. And
right.
Of course,
all the rhetoric and statements that were mentioned during the campaigns,
exactly.
I think it's not necessarily to be actually implemented by the U.S.
Yes, and we have to understand this fact. Not everything was being said during the electoral campaign going to happen, especially in a country like United States of America. Things are more disciplined than just a new president could come and turn everything upside down. Of course, personal characteristics play a role in the issue, but not to that limit that some people might think about. And probably we have to remember to recall the visit. We all remember it, the speech and the visit of President Barack Obama in his first days as president in 2009, and his famous speech in Cairo University. What he said during his speech in Cairo University, a lot of people, of course, have forgotten that, was so positive and a lot of promises, especially when we talk about Palestinian issues, cause, and we talk about the relations between the United States and the Islamic world, his promises to close down Guantanamo detention camp, and some other promises. Today, after 2 consecutive periods of his presidency, most of these promises have gone not fulfilled or not met. So when it comes to foreign policy of United States, the supremacy of the upper interest of the national security considerations of the American society comes usually above all. That means simply that whatever necessary that's going to happen and to shape the foreign relations especially, Donald Trump is going to make it. Whether it goes with typically with what he said before during his campaign, or whether it comes in contravention to what he said. We have to remember also that, as I said, the United States is a stable democracy. he is not just a president. He is a representative of a huge and big party there, Republicans. So there is policies for the party itself. So he is not just going to come and to do everything on his own. So he is a reflection to the party policies. And that makes it, for us, predictable about Republicans and their attitude in controlling and in running a huge country like United States of America. Internally, I don't expect much to happen because most of the agenda of both of them, whether Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump, were typically, or more or less typically identical, their internal programs. The margin for difference could be in foreign relations, but let me tell you a fact about the American policies when it comes to relations. It's not a big concern to most of the Americans themselves inside. The big concern for them, worry, he was very skillful in handling the major concerns about foreign policies of United States. When he declared what he said during his electoral campaign, he was not in favor of this expansive military intervention in the world. He expressed that he was not in support of what happened in Iraq and the American intervention in Iraq, and he is not going to have this, you know, colliding or coalescing policies with other powers unless, you know, the utmost or the foremost, the most, the upper interest of United States society and as a superpower is threatened. So he's not going to use the power the way it was used during Obama time or other presidents' time. So we talk about more or less a policy that could be linked to President Nixon time. He was not in favor of intervening at large or in large policies, the foreign policies. He was in favor of more protective, sort of conservative relations with the outside world when it comes to the use of power. What he said about that makes him closer to President Nixon, and of course very far from President George Bush, the son, and to some extent also far from President Barack Obama and his administration. Specifically, when we talk about foreign relations, we talk about a margin of freedom of movement for the President of United States of America, but this is conditional to the support of the Congress. So as long as he has a fair majority in both councils, House of Representatives and Senators, he could do his policies. But of course it's not his policies. Again, I have to say it. It's not his policies as Donald Trump. It's the policy of the Republicans, the policy of how to protect the interests of United States of America from the point of view of Republicans and their representative in the White House, which is the President Donald Trump.
Right. Let me take it from the part that you mentioned or you talked about or focused on his camp, his own camp, who are Republicans, of course. For the first time, the Republicans are going to take over since the Democrats has been taking over since 2006. But the fact that there are divisions over Donald Trump because of his policies, expected policies, or feared expected policies, his rhetoric, may you say whatever you can call it, everyone who's observing the situation, his own fears, but there is divisions even inside the same party. Even the House Speaker, Senator Paul Ryan, reflected this dissent about Donald Trump being a president. I mean, they are divided over Donald Trump. Of course, they're going to be united. But the fact that there were protests, there were demonstrations on the streets by youth, and the fact that his rhetoric was a little bit alarming or irritating, and the fact that he expressed some concern about immigrants and the Mexican a wall and all that, although that he's going to change that, and form into the U.S. general administration, not as a one-man show, but as an institution. Of course, what do you think is expected in the differences between the Obama administration and the Trump administration?
Well,
that would come as good news to us.
Well, I'm afraid we cannot take any of them for us. The idea always for the United States, whether it's Trump or Obama or any other president, is the upper interest of the American society and the American state. So whenever there is a correlation, a closeness, or matching of interests between United States and Egypt, you will find the American policies coming to us the way we want. So what does this mean simply? It means simply that we should not rely much on that the president-elect Donald Trump will do exactly what we would like him to do to be in favor of the policies that we support or we are seeing the best policies in the Middle East. It means simply that we have to have our own stances, well elaborated, well studied, and well founded also. We have to be able to defend our causes the right way. We have to use the language that is understandable, not only from the international community, but also from the United States of America as a superpower, and we have to be very protective to our strategic relations with the United States of America. But it doesn't mean that we should expect Donald Trump to be 100% in favor of our policies or what we see good as experimental player in the international politics. We could have differences. And at the time that we might, and probably, most probably, we will have a lot of differences in coming from United States policies after Trump is in the office. What we will do in that, we have to be, what I want to say is we have to be well prepared to more or less the same margin of differences, even though when we have some statements coming from Donald Trump or the top aides of him, talking about, for instance, his intention to jumpstart again the bill of against a Muslim Brotherhood in the United States of America, designate them as terrorism organization, which we might think in favor of us. But even if he does this, he is not going to do this because it's for the interest of Egypt. He's going to do this, or the Arab world as a whole. He's going to do this because it's for the interest of United States of America. So I don't want to be trapped in the idea of he's going to do what we want or what we see as our interest for him to do or to support us. That means, from the other hand, that we have to have our own picture of our decisions, our movements, our efforts, diplomatic or else. But the idea that Donald Trump is less interested in involving United States militarily and when it comes to power and physical power or military power in the world probably would mean, from the other hand, that he will be less interested in getting involved in the Middle East policies. When it comes to Middle East, Israel at the heart of the American policies in the region. And will the American policy towards Israel change? No, that never. It will never happen. You know, Israel is at the heart of American policies in the Middle East. Will the American stance change when it comes to its relation with the other superpower, Russia, when it comes to the problem of Syria? This is probably going to happen in a very slight margin. Considering that both of them have interests in Syria and in the region, and both of them will not happen in any one time that they will collide with each other and they will fight each other because of Syria. It's sort of sharing the cake, you know. But the United States, of course, they understand fully that Russia, when Russia intervenes in Syria, Syria is the last footstep or the last foot place for Russia in the whole region. And Russia is not going to let down the President Bashar al-Assad system in Syria simply because Syria for Russia is the window in the region, the only window for Russia in the region. Of course, the United States understands this, and probably this sort of political flattery that came out from Donald Trump electoral when he commended Russian President Putin was a sign that he is not going to take the same usual policy with Russia as the current administration headed by President Obama. I noticed that in the recent visit from President Obama to Europe, to Germany and other European countries, the visit that was described as to let Europeans feel okay with the new president and appease their worries from a change in the American policies towards Europe. He even advised Donald Trump not to let Russians do their activities when it comes to international relations the way the Russians want, and he has not to support Russian policies when they contravene or act against international rules relations, which was not so conventional or familiar when it comes from a president to another president of the United States. Anyway, I still see this arena, this theater of policies in the Middle East between Russia and the United States of America as one of the major issues that could witness sort of change, not just in favor of America, but in favor of the Middle East itself, because United States policies,
what I predict going to happen, probably would mean less tense situations,
less sticking to what the Barack Obama administration used to stick to, of full intervention and trying to impose their word in the region, whether in Syria, whether in Iraq, or even in Turkey and in Saudi Arabia and most of the region countries.
I think one of the issues that's going to witness sort of appeasing or calming down the relations
between Russia and the United States is the Middle East area. Probably when we talk about some of his statements about his support to or his intention to deal differently with Muslim Brotherhood and other fanatic groups, whether in the United States or abroad, I still see this issue as
of stimulating Arab world,
sort of gaining support. And we have to understand that, as I said, if they support this bill again in the Congress, they will support it because it supports their own interest, not because Muslim Brotherhood is a threat to Egypt or to any other country. And it's always like that when it comes to the American policies. And if we expect otherwise, then we are in the wrong direction. We have to accept and
understand the American policies in the region as a superpower
that places its interest in most or the top place of everything. And that means simply that we also in Egypt, in the whole Arab world indeed, especially Saudi Arabia and Egypt, have to be fully convinced that our interests in the region, our interests in the stability of
Egypt and stability of Saudi Arabia and stability of the whole Arab world should be the major concern of us, not the major concern of Donald Trump or the American administration. And we have to understand this fact.
The problem that we used to suffer from,
we are paying much. It's very costly for us as Arab world today,
is the absence of Arab decision in many of our Arab world problems, in Syria, in Iraq, in Yemen, in Libya. This vacuum in the Arab decision.
Divisions among the Arab
divisions.
countries.
We are divided a lot when it comes to our own problems.
and which have created in practice a great vacuum in the Arab political relations. This vacuum was used by international powers, whether Russia or United States of America. We should be in the instrumental body in shaping our policies, and it's really a shame when we go, all the Arab world ministers of foreign affairs go to United Nations, and they come all together under the head of American Secretary of State to look into the Syrian issue.
Right.
It's not, I mean, it doesn't look so good, you know.
Also, President-elect Donald Trump met with several nominees during the past days regarding the new appointments for the U.S. administration, among which is Mitt Romney, the presidential nominee. What are your expectations for his choices?
I think he's, well, I believe that he is strong enough to have his aides, his closest aides and assistants from the Hawks, which is good. I mean, which is good because probably this is one of the issues that made most of the Americans go for Donald Trump, not for Hillary Clinton. Americans wanted sort of change in this conventional smooth policies that have dragged America into endless problems in the whole world, and have to some extent devastated the image of American state or American empire in the world because of this Obama administration policies, the soft and the surface policies, while under the cover, under the scene, a lot of events are taking place. And of course, even Donald Trump himself during his electoral campaign has said it openly and frankly in several times that he blamed Barack Obama administration for what happened in Iraq. He blames him for what happened in Libya, and he blames him even for what happened in Egypt, because the administration supported this massive change in the existing ruling systems in the Arab world. And what he said is, look what you have done in the region, because most of the countries of the region are not stable today, thanks to your intervention in the wrong way. So what he said was, openly telling that he's going to choose strong supporters to his policy. And again, not to his policy as Donald Trump, but to his policy as a representative of the Republican Party. We don't have to forget this. It is not circling around one person. It's circling around a policy of a major party there, whether Democrats or Republicans. Now he is a representative of the Republicans in the Oval Office, and he is going to act in accordance with the interest of the Republicans and the interest, of course, of United States of America from the point of Republican Party in America. And we have to understand it that way, not from our own perspective.
In relation to this, how conflicting do you see the policies of both the Republicans and the Democrats?
Well, there is differences. Internally, yes, what he said, probably one of the differences about what he said internally in the internal policies of United States was what he was talking about, the health care program that was advocated strenuously.
This was one of the main
issues,
the Obamacare.
He's against it, and he's totally against it. So one of the things that Obama have fought a long time of his presidency to make it done, he is simply
Right, but let me take it from here and go back to what you kindly raised, another important issue, which is the enforced policies of the Obama administration for the past 6 years prominently, which is the enforced U.S. policies inside the Middle East, intervening policies, let me say aggressive policies, and other terms that were used by Trump to express it or describe it. Now, it's that Mr. Trump is going to be having something of a slight change other than this policy. Another thing This is one element that I want you to elaborate on. Another element that is related to it, which is the long-time ally or the main ally inside the Middle East, the Saudi Arabia to the United States. There has been stress in the relationship for a while, and Saudi Arabia is expecting, or hopefully expecting, some change. But political analysts are expecting also that there isn't any change that is going to be effected because of the fact that there are certain countries inside the Middle East that are supporting what they call the modern opposition, that was called by the U.S. administration, which are the militants who are fighting the official governments and are the dissecting countries and all that. And Donald Trump is totally against this. So do you think Egypt is going to replace Saudi Arabia's place as an ally to the... This is going to be good news to Egypt again?
Well, I don't think this is going to happen. Even if it happens, I don't think this is going to be good news. We have to be careful about shaping or reshaping our relations, whether Saudi Arabia or Egypt, with United States of America. The idea is, if we understand the variables of the political scene today, also if we States of America is not a country that takes on the ground, just clumsy or very speed or quick policies just for nothing. This is very wrong. I see the situation between between Saudi Arabia and United States of America from another point of view. Mr. Donald Trump, he said it during his different statements about his policies in the region. He is not going to push for more intrusive or intervention in the region, especially using the American power, unless it is sort of threatening, real threat to the American interest. And also what he said was talking about, yes, if you Arabs would like to, and of course he was talking about the Gulf area region, if you would like to have us protecting you, you have to pay for that. And that means simple. He's a businessman, and he's taking the ship towards business sometimes when it comes to policies. That means also it's easy to understand him from the point of view that, yes, this is for the interest of United States of America, so he's going to push for that, even from his own, not only from his own viewpoint as a president, as a person, but from his viewpoint as a representative for Republicans.
Right.
Saudi Arabia and Egypt, we have to understand the equation today. We need to protect our interests at first.
Right.
Dr. Ibrahim Ghazawi, Professor of International Relations, I'd like to thank you very much for coming over as usual. And
thank you very much, sir, for coming.
Thank you so much.
Dear viewers, now we go for a short break and we'll be right back.
Egypt's culture has thousands of years of recorded history. In every major city,